15 miles from Tistelön lies a small fishing village, insignificant in itself, but large enough to serve as a complete picture of such places in this remote corner of the world. A number of little huts are placed in various directions along the rough pavement, with the evident design of forming a street. Only the most distinguished display red-painted fronts, but nearly all have on the gable of the projecting porch some ornament of carved wood, saved from the frequent wrecks, generally gilt figureheads of Dutch vessels and the like. The air is so impregnated with the smell of putrid fish that even the strong gales from the sea have scarcely power to purify it. Fortunately, the inhabitants, accustomed to that, as well as to many other such annoyances, are hardly aware of it. The men are at sea most of the day and night, while the women are busy at home drying the fish and keeping in order sails, lines, baskets, oyster tongs, and other articles required for fishing. The children, who are innumerable here as in all other places of the kind, have chestnut complexions, pale yellow hair, and blue eyes, and are commonly to be seen in flocks, the poorest with no other covering but a ragged shirt of a grayish color, and the best appointed clad in the tarry fragments of their fathers' cast-off trousers and ditto jackets, which, having undergone no alteration, serve the purpose of cloaks for the junior members, the long dangling sleeves being the only inconvenience. Robust and early used to activity, they are either employed in fish drying or amuse themselves on the beach, often in company with a starved pig, to which they cast pieces of bait and such choice morsels. Nevertheless, on looking into the interior of these abodes of poverty, one is struck by a degree of order and cleanliness which leaves on the whole a cheering impression. An old but well-washed sail stuffed with seaweed composes the bedding. The deal table is scoured and polished smooth with rubbing, and the floor sprinkled with the finest shell sand. In one corner is generally a cupboard, supported on legs of peeled fir, in which is kept the principal part of the crockery ware, such as 2 or 3 teacups, a cracked dish, a coffee pot without a spout, a brandy mug, etc., etc. On a shelf above the little window lies the family library, consisting of a large yellow-leaved Bible and a psalm book in black leather binding, and for a mark probably one of the Apostles stamped on gilt paper. But the little shelf furnishes other literature besides that of a devotional kind, some dusty bundles containing Lunkentus, Puss in Boots, the Fair Melusina, along with a few ballads to be sung, as the title page expresses it, to their own pleasing melodies published this year. The poor dwelling has also its ornaments. Fixed to the wall by long nails are pictures representing His Majesty and the Crown Prince on horseback, all in woodcuts and with verses underneath. Between these precious decorations and the fishing tackle, which has also its place on the wall, a certain distance is preserved for honor to whom honor is due. The honest souls would think it a want of respect towards royalty if they brought their nets, lines, and lobster tongs too near it. As connected with the last-named articles, we may observe, in parentheses, that our story belongs to that pleasant time when the inhabitants of the district were free to buy and eat their own lobsters, and not obliged to look on with long faces and see them devoured by the English for the good of the country. Having described one aspect of a fishing village, we ought perhaps to detail also the misery which winter and its companions, cold and starvation, brings upon the wretched inhabitants. But we propose to return to this subject at a future period. We shall now step into a small red-painted house with white window shutters, which by its situation between the pier and the rest of the fisher huts seems to announce its greater importance. Such, in fact, is the case, for the house is inhabited by the officer of the Coast Guard, Lieutenant Arnman, and his little household. See how comfortable it looks. The porch is as clean and neat as a parlor. Through the small but clear window panes appear some fine balsams, a geranium, and a tiny apple tree in a green box. And from the midst of the simple conservatory a venerable head looks out, with the hair turned back from the forehead and confined under a close cap. It is the head of Fru Katarina Arnman, the lieutenant's excellent and sensible wife. The cuckoo clock struck 12, and at the last stroke Fru Arnman stepped out onto the porch and looked about her. A rare woman was this Fru Arnman. She was her husband's honor and crown, was looked up to as an ever-ready counselor in all difficulties, and often applied to by the poor fishers who regarded her, though so lately come amongst them, as a mother ready to listen to and help them as far as she could, but one who could reprove also when it was necessary to punish a fault, a bad habit, and especially any inclination to slovenliness. Fru Katrina was rather a severe mistress, but not the less beloved by her only servant, old Annika. And although strict in bringing up her only child, she was also, as a mother, loved, respected, and obeyed. A word from her lips was an oracle, not to be contradicted. In Fru Katrina's whole bearing and tall, handsome figure, there was something which might properly be called imposing. Everyone who saw her felt the influence of her unconscious superiority. "Those good people never keep their time now," said she, speaking to herself in rather a displeased tone. "I wonder what they're about now." At this moment 2 men were seen coming round the corner of one of the cottages and approaching the house with hasty steps. "Bless me, how you dawdle!" exclaimed Fru Katrina. "Don't you know the clock has struck 12? The ling is getting cold, and Arve, poor boy, is ready to bite his fingers with hunger." "Don't scold, mother," replied in a good-humoured tone the younger of the 2 men, who had both, however, passed the meridian of life. "I've got something to think about. The pinnace must go out this very evening." "Then I guess you've got news of the seal shooters at Tistelön. But we can talk about that afterwards. Come in now and eat your fish before it is cold." They entered the neat little room, where a table was covered for 4 persons. 2 of the places were taken by Arnman and his wife. The third was occupied by their son Arvid, a fine, lively lad of 14, and the 4th by the friend of the family, Herr Per Fabian Askenberry, formerly sub-lieutenant in the navy, an old comrade of Arnman, who also had served in the fleet during his youth. It was a pleasing family picture to see these 4 good, happy people together. The most perfect love and harmony reigned in the little circle, and Lieutenant Per often enlivened his more serious friend by his excellent stories, when at the close of the day they conversed over their evening pipes, and in imagination lived over again their seafaring adventures. It must not, however, be supposed that the old invalid, Askenberry, lived on the charity of his friend. In compensation for having lost the use of his right arm, he received a comfortable pension, to which he added the interest of a small capital he had laid by in better times. But the treasure itself the old man regarded as the property of another, having destined it, along with the brightly polished arms, neatly disposed over the bed in his own room, for Arve, his godson, pupil, and prime favorite. The conversation, which usually at dinner kept pace with the attack on the fish, was not even commenced today. Fru Katrina, in thought, was stuffing her husband's provision basket. Arve was speculating how he might contrive to have a share in the expedition. Arnman himself looked thoughtfully down on his plate, and old Askenberry felt in a state most unusual with him, dispirited and almost uneasy, but for no particular reason. But when the soup was served and Fru Katrina had gotten the provision basket ready, she remarked the general silence. "What is the matter, Arnman? Have you heard any news?" "Aye, that I have, mother. Great news. The old report of smuggling has been again raised against the seal shooters of Tistelön, but this time I hope to get hold of them. The wind is fair, and please God, before night sets in, the pinnace will be keeping a sharp lookout." "It is quite certain, then," asked Fru Katrina, "that they will go out to sea tonight? The wind will rise and blow a gale in the evening, and it is no joke to go and seek them out in their hiding places, particularly for you, Arnman, who are not yet well acquainted with this abominable skärgård. It is no joke, sure enough, wife, but I trust next to God in the justice of my cause. Those rascals don't smuggle on a small scale, and we shall have a neat little prize if all goes well." "Aye, there's the thing," said old Askenberry thoughtfully. "There's a fog coming on tonight, which I fear more than the high winds. I shouldn't get a wink of sleep if I stayed at home. So I mean to be of the party." "And I too, father. I must really go," exclaimed Arve, who, when Lieutenant Père had thus boldly declared his intention, could no longer be silent. "Oh, nonsense, child. Stay at home till you are fledged," interrupted Fru Katrina. "Night expeditions and looking after smugglers, they're only fit for men who have grown up in danger. But the young bird must not leave the nest till his wings can bear him." Arvid grumbled to himself, but Fru Katrina had brought up her son in obedience and the fear of God. When she had once said no, there was no more to be said. Yet the boy, longing for adventures, could not help now and then casting an entreating look at his usually more indulgent father. This time, however, it was all in vain, for Arnman said very seriously, "You must stay at home, my boy, and Uncle Père too. I will take no one with me but the two men." "How now?" exclaimed Uncle Père, half angry. "I'm not frightened hare. Though my right hand is stiff and useless, the left will serve me yet as well as any man's." A reproachful look from Arnman silenced Lieutenant Père. But after they had risen from table, and Fru Katrina had gone into the kitchen, where she also made Arve lend a helping hand, all kinds of knowledge, according to her, being good for young people, the two friends went to the window, and Arnman said as he pointed to the stormy sea, "You can be of no service to me there, but you may be needed at home should anything happen." "Should anything happen?" repeated Askenberry, and he looked inquiringly at his friend. "True, no one can tell what turn things may take, for as your wife said just now, you don't know these smugglers' hiding places. They're as much at home in them as by their own stoves. God guide all for the best." "Well, they've given me the slip 3 times already," said Arnman, who devoted heart and soul to his profession, and conscious of still possessing the full strength and energy it demanded, felt his vexation return at the recollection of his unsuccessful expeditions. "Yes, 3 times the rascals have made an April fool of me. But this time I've had certain information that they intend to deliver a considerable quantity of valuable goods to a mercantile house in Gothenburg one of these nights, and it is likely enough they will fix on this night, which looks as if it would be favorable for such things." "But if you should not fall in with them tonight?" "Well, then I will not give up the search till I have won the prize. Win it I must, if I should be out a week. Of course, in the daytime I shall keep under sail in some other direction." "Well, in that case you may be out a long time without our hearing anything of you." "Well, yes, 2 days at least. But if I don't meet with them either tonight or tomorrow night, I shall come home the day after for a few hours." At 3 o'clock Arnman went on board, followed by his wife, his son, and Uncle Père. Fru Katrina brought her coffee pot with her, full of excellent hot coffee. And there, sitting in the little cabin, she treated her husband to a farewell cup, and then, with tears in her eyes, wished him a prosperous voyage. "My heart is always heavy when you go out to sea at night, Arnman dear," said Fru Katrina in a kindly tone, "but it is worse than usual today. The good Lord protect you and guide you on your way. You will find the snuff canister in the left-hand corner of the basket, and I put the tobacco in one of your overall boots, and in the other are a couple of lobsters. There was no room for them in the basket. God keep all who are at sea this night. Good-bye, dear husband." "Good-bye, my old woman." Arnman bent his brown and weather-beaten cheek towards Fru Katrina's as his lips sought and found those of his faithful helpmate. "Do not be too rash," whispered old Askenberry as he shook Arnman by the hand. "Remember, you're not alone in the world." Arvan's turn came last. "Here, my boy," said his father, taking the large silver watch and pinchbeck chain from his pocket. "You must have something to make up for your disappointment. I have a watch in the boat here and can do without this one. You must take as good care of it as I have done. It was your grandfather's. Now, you must all go on shore. God bless you." The family turned homewards, while the custom house boat put out to sea. It was the same evening that the seal shooters prepared for their nocturnal expedition.